Congresspeople often act like a pack of rabid wolves. Well, now they finally have an excuse. Welcome to Congresswolf. This is a choose-your-own-adventure kind of story created by Ellen Cooper, who has done several different ones of these available on Steam. And it centers around a person who is running for congressional re-election. It also takes place in a world where werewolves are real, and there is a werewolf rights bill currently up for heavy debate. And there are a fair amount of twists and turns to this. Two things to note at the beginning. Number one, this is text, all text. I'm going to be reading everything. There is no sound. I was going to try to put some like generic wolf howl sounds behind it, but I thought that would get old after a while, so I can always add that later if I feel like it. And second, this is going to be very much an audience participation story, because we do have choices like you would expect from a choose your own. So everybody in the chat, feel free to apply oh, that would definitely get old, Rick. Feel free to apply your opinion when the choice comes up. I will be the tiebreaker if need be. All right. So without further delay, I was going to say, let's see if we can, growl at the bills. Or something like that. Wolf at the door. It's raining. The water pouring out of the sky feels dirty even before it hits the ground, gritty and grimy like everything else in this city. It sluices into the gutters and mixes with God only knows what other filth, lifting and floating, discarding food wrappers, newspaper ads, and other bits of refuse. Even a thunderstorm can't wash these streets clean. On the upside, Ninja Turtles. The rain pounds over your black umbrella, splashing you with stray drops as you half walk, half jog down the street. A street sign swims up out of the sheeting rain as you near the corner, 14th and Martin. You stare stupidly at the sign for a second, slack-jawed. Your heart, already racing, starts thudding like a hammer in your chest. A fat, grimy drop of water drips off the edge of your umbrella and down the back of your neck, breaking your bemusement with a violent shudder. Great, just great. It's your first day of work, it's raining, and you're about to be late. And now you're pretty sure you're lost. And what next? Taking a deep breath, you step off the sidewalk and into the street, raising your hand to hail a cab. Your black loafers soak through immediately, chilling your feet to the bone and making you wince. They cost more than you could really afford, but you can show up to your new job in ratty sneakers. A discarded newspaper wraps around your ankle for a second. You glance down, and half the headline, Lycanthrope Rights Bill, jumps out at you before the rushing water pulls it off and away towards the gutter. Hello, DIOT Gaming. Welcome. Congress has been debating the upcoming bill about civil rights for werewolves off and on for a year now, and they're no closer to a deal than when they started. Wow, this is more realistic than I thought. You don't have to wait long before a cheerfully yellow cab flashes its lights at you and pulls to the side of the road. But you've barely taken 2 steps towards it when a woman steps off the street in front of you heading for your cab. Your only chance of making it to work on time is if you get moving right now. How are you going to convince her to let you have it? I'll talk to her. I've always been good at persuading people to see things my way. I'll just step in and take charge. People naturally follow where I lead. I'll offer her money. Everybody's got a price. I'll appear to her fellow feeling. I almost said fellow feeding. I need that cab really badly. Okay. Chat, what do we do? How do we handle this? That's right, DIOT Gaming, this is interactive night. Okay, Rick says offer her money. Please no abstaining. Please everybody make your voice heard. It's important to vote. Okay, so looks like we're going with money. Okay, you would say number 4, Miss Kitten. 2 people said money, so we're going to offer the money. You duck under her waving arm and pull out your wallet. "I'll pay for your Uber if you let me get this one," you say. She looks at you oddly, but she steps back and lets you have the cab in exchange for the 20 you flash. Dripping and demoralized but victorious, you slide into the back seat of the cab. 23rd in Washington, you tell the driver, "as fast as possible, please." A cab pulls away from the curb in a muddy wave, weaving in and out of traffic in a way that makes you look decidingly nervous. Given the way the cabbie is looking at you in the rearview mirror instead of at the road, you huddle in your wet clothes and watch the windshield wipers flop rhythmically back and forth, trying not to check the time every 5 seconds. The radio is tuned to a couple of talking heads debating civil rights for lycanthropes. "Werewolf rights are human rights," one of them says, but she's interrupted by the other shouting, "You want a wolf man teaching your kids? Maybe staying late to help them with their homework while that full moon is rising? Is that what you want?" "What's the big hurry?" the cab driver asks. The cab cuts across 2 lanes to make a sudden right turn, leaving a cacophony of horns and screeching brakes in his wake. "New job," you say, "and I'm late." The cabbie makes a sympathetic face at you in the rearview mirror. "I hope the job's worth it." "It is," you say, trying not to grab the ceiling handle as the cab starts to fishtail in the half-flooded intersection. "I asked him to go fast, after all." "I'm in politics. It's a re-election campaign. I am going to work for Laxman Lefty Nermal, the cutest kitten in the world. Democratic. He's a gifted speaker who can fire up even the most apathetic crowd. His fundraising so far this cycle has been abysmal, but the press loves him. Faith Goodpenny, Republican Party. There have been rumors for years that Faith's vote is available to anyone for a price. But she maintains she's taking a principled stand on behalf of big business. Either way, the movers and shakers love her right back. Harold Hawk Ashgrove, Democratic. Hawk calls himself responsible on environmental issues. His opponents call him a tree hugger. He's always been popular with the person on the street, but he doesn't have a lot of friends in high places. Gilda Florin, Republican. Financing a congressional campaign is much easier when you can just write yourself a check, and Gilda sure can. She's not the candidate voters want to have a beer with, but her crusade for smaller government wins her votes. So, who are we throwing our hat in with? I have played through this several times with several different candidates, but I don't recall really which one is easier or more difficult than the other. Okay, so we got one for Lefty and one for Goodpenny. Okay, DIO to you're the decider. Maybe. Lefty. Okay. Going with Lefty, why not Poncho? The cabbie laughs. Good old Lefty. I always like to see him on TV. He gives a hell of a speech. Sure, you think, now if we were better at raising money. This is 23rd, you point out, when the driver seems to be about to miss the turn. He wrenches the wheel to the right. The cab hydroplanes through the pool of water that used to be an intersection, and for a second it tilts crazily on 2 wheels. You grab for the ceiling handle again and hang onto it with white knuckles, but the cab makes the turn and settles back onto all 4 wheels with a squeaking complaint from the suspension. The driver grins at you in the rearview mirror. "So what are you going to be doing for Laxman Normal? Running the whole thing?" He winks. You force your fingers to peel away from the handle, trying to relax. "Just a few more blocks." "Deputy campaign manager," you tell the driver. With a jerk, the cab stops. Yes, exactly. His grin gets wider. "But I bet you'd rather be the big cheese, wouldn't you?" He's not even pretending to watch the road. Your hand creeps back up towards the handle. You snort. "Of course I would. Maybe someday," you say. "Oh, come on," he says, goading you. "If you were in charge, what would you do?" "Well, you start. First of all, I'd win the press over. It's hard to go wrong with the media on your side. Hello, Texamosis. I'll explain in just a second. Make friends with all the right people. Take a stand on the issues I mean Congressman Normal really believes in. Congresswolf is a text choose your own adventure kind of game involving helping to run a congressperson's election campaign and also dealing with werewolf rights. And I figured this would be absolutely perfect to play in October 2020. So audience participation all around. Everybody exercise your right to vote. That includes you, Texamosis. What do we do? Or what do we say? Take a stand on the issues, okay? Win the press over, okay? Diayoti says press. Texamosis? Texamosis says 1. So we got press. We got 3 votes for the press. Okay. The driver nods knowingly. The mainstream media has too much power in this country. Oh, great. They tell the stories, you agree, but if you can get them on your side, they'll tell your story, and the way you tell it to them, whether it makes you good or someone else look bad. The driver grunts. The way they tell it, anyone who doesn't share their agenda ends up looking bad. No comment. You slouch down further into the back seat of the cab. The rain slows, then stops. As the driver turns the final corner, a ray of sun bursts through the break in the clouds, glinting off the cracked, slippery sidewalks and flashing rainbows over the oily slicks covering the asphalt. It might be silly, but you can feel your heart lift at the sight of that little beam of light. It happens quicker than a ray of light. Then the cab pulls up in front of the Lax Man Normal for Congress campaign headquarters, and your heart drops right back into the hole it just crawled out of. The office itself isn't much, just a shabby storefront with a bunch of Vote Laxman signs in the windows. But what sent your improving mood into freefall is that it's surrounded by protesters. They're waving signs that say, like, "Don't fear my fur," and "Wolf for one night, human all 28 days, and pass the bill now." Some of them are wearing wolf masks. They're at least 3 deep, and they're between you and the door. First day of work, and you have to wade through a bunch of werewolf rights activists. Figures. Friends of yours, the cab driver asks. He jerks at the protesters. "Are you kidding? Werewolves disgust me. They're probably a bunch of murderers. We should lock them all up." "Hardly. I don't really trust werewolves." "Never met them before. Still, live and let live, right? If it were up to me, I'd be right there protesting along with them." "Well, you know how I'd vote, but ain't up to me." Okay, Rick says live and let live. So does Misfit Kitten. So does DIOT, so okay, we're going to have a majority on that. And if the werewolf protesters make you give in and cry, then say live and let die. The cabbie rolls his eyes. "I guess so. As long as they let me and my kids live too. As long as they stay where they belong during the full moon, in a cage or far away from you and me." You pay the cabbie, wincing at the cost of the fare, and step out of the cab, stumbling a little to avoid the muddy puddle, lapping gently at the curb cut. The protesters' chants increase in volume as you walk towards them. "What do we want? Equal rights. When do we want them? Now. What do we want? Not to go to work today. When do we want it? Sometime that's convenient for everyone involved." The few steps between the curb and the storefront suddenly seem like an impassable distance. You hunch your shoulders uncomfortably. It stopped raining, but your jacket is still damp, and it scrapes wetly against the back of your neck as you walk. As you approach the line of protesters, one of them peels off from the crowd and approaches you. He's tall and lean, with long dark hair that's dry despite the recent rain. It swings around his face and shoulders as he walks. It's John Morrison. "Hi," he says as he nears you. "My name is Thomas Bear. Have you tried my aspirin? Do you have a minute to talk?" He reaches out a hand to shake. "What do we want? Nebulousness. When do we want it? Sometime." "Okay, Dewey, blow him off. I don't talk to werewolves. Try to avoid him. I'm late. Brush him off with a promise. Anything to get rid of him. Listen to what he has to say. It can't hurt to talk to him for a minute." Okay, we immediately have several votes for number 4. All right. Whoever's not getting their vote in or is losing to the majority vote, I hope you're not too disappointed. Hopefully this can be. I was a little worried about this one, but I definitely wanted to do it. So Hopefully this can be still entertaining for everybody. You shake his hand. "Hi, Thomas," you say. "This is quite a gathering you have here. Almost a pack, really. I can see I'm not getting into the office without talking to you first." You say it with a smile to show you're just kidding. Thomas's face lights up. "That's just what I wanted to talk to you about," he says. "You work for the congressman, don't you?" Rick, I think that option is, implicit. You incline your head. "I work for Congressman Nermal, yes." Thomas's smile grows even broader. "Great," he says, "and what's your name?" "Riley, Gian, Duha, Ari, Sasha, Chandra. None of these. I want to enter a different name." If I remember correctly, I think a whole lot about Congresswolf is gender neutral, at least up to a point. But it's been a while since I played, so I don't remember for sure. Okay, Misfit says Riley. I try to figure out how to accompany or how to incorporate everyone in the chat's names. So like Miss Rick Yotitex. Okay, a couple of Rileys. Rick says Ari. No, that'd be Avi. You are a werewolf, right? Okay. I know, Misfit Kitten. I know. I'm just kidding. Okay. I tell you what, just keep us going. I'm going to go ahead with number one then. We'll say Riley. Brother of Huey Freeman from the Boondocks. Thomas steps closer. "Listen, Riley," he says. "I'm hoping you can get me an appointment to talk to Congressman Nermal about the werewolf rights bill. You know it's coming up for a vote soon, don't you? I'd really like the opportunity to talk to the congressman about our movement." You hold out your hands defensively. "I really need to get to work." "I guarantee your boss isn't here yet," Thomas says promptly. "We've been here for an hour and no one's here yet. Just a couple of minutes?" "It's weird that no one's here yet. Maggie, the campaign manager, told you to meet her here at 8 sharp. Maybe she got held up in traffic or something." "Well, talking to constituents is sort of part of my job, you say." No, the president's just a figurehead, so it's got to be John Arbuckle. Don't even ask what happened to Vice President Lyman. "Okay. Tell me about the bill. Tell me about werewolf history. Tell me about the lycanthropy virus. Tell me about why you're protesting my office. I don't need to hear anymore." I don't know if this is one we go back to or not. So, okay. One about the bill, one about werewolf history, one about the protest. And tell me about the bill. Okay. We're going to hear about the bill. This spiel is clearly well rehearsed, but Thomas warms to his subject quickly. It's called the Lycanthrope Registration Reform Act. But we also all call it Manny's Law after the biologist who discovered the lycanthropy virus. It repeals a lot of the stuff in the lycanthrope registration aspect. The LRA. We're still required to register with the government and give a DNA sample in case we bite someone. Failing to take precautions during the full moon or any time we might infect someone else is still a crime, but the penalties are much more reasonable, and for any other crime we do the same time anyone else would. And no more losing our kids, our jobs, or our homes just because we're werewolves. 6 states have already passed some version of the LRRA, but we need Congress to remove the federal restrictions and protect us in all 50 states. Thomas widens his eyes imploringly. You fight off the obvious puppy dog comparison. "This bill is a compromise," he says. "Many of us wanted something much more sweeping, but this is a bill that we all, infected or not, can live with. It's a bill that would let us be treated like people for the first time in all of history. I can see why that would be important to you, you say. Okay, so now we have the other options. Werewolf history, lycanthropy virus, protesting my office. Or I don't give a shit. Excuse me a second. Protesting history. You like Rage Against the Machine, protesting history? Okay, so let's see. 3-3. Okay, oh, Dioti switched his. Okay, werewolf history. Thomas arches an eyebrow at you. I'm going to assume you know all the fairy tale stuff, right? He doesn't wait for an answer. The LRA, the Lycanthrope Registration Act, passed Congress in 1936. It says all werewolves must register with the federal government and the state where they reside. Our homes are subject to unannounced searches at any time, and we're required to keep the local authorities appraised of our movements. If we have children, the government takes them away. Failure to register is punishable by death. Failure to take appropriate precautions on the night of a full moon is punishable by death. If we're convicted of any crime, whether it's related to lycanthropy or not, it's a capital offense. Thomas takes a deep breath. The Supreme Court overturned the death penalty parts in 1974, 2 years after the moratorium was imposed for uninfected people, but they replaced it with life in prison. And that's about where we stand today. We can be fired for any reason, evicted, we lose custody of our kids just for being what we are. And if we're convicted of a crime, any crime, we go to prison for good. That's terrible, you say. It must be so hard to live like that. Okay. Looks like we're going to be able to see all of these, so let's just go on ahead and do these in order. Tell me about the lycanthropy virus. Thomas launches into the story eagerly. So Manny Lopez, he was a biologist, a rising star. Everybody thought he'd win a Nobel, only then he got bitten. He registered with the government like he was supposed to, built a steel-barred kennel in his backyard. He did everything right, but it didn't help. Thomas sighs. His wife left him. She didn't want to, but the state would have taken the kids. Then he lost his grants, and his university terminated his contract. From the American dream to nothing, just like that. Thomas... I can't snap my fingers, but that's what Thomas did. All he had was his life savings and some old lab equipment set up in the basement, Thomas continued, and himself for a research subject. But he did it. He proved that lycanthropy is caused by a virus. Isolated it. It's contagious, but you can keep from catching it just like you can with any other disease. You, people like you, can be safe around us. That's what Manny announced at his press conference. It took 6 months for another lab to replicate his results, but they did. Thomas shakes his head. And then somebody drove past Manny's house and shot him while he was taking out the trash. They never found out who. His voice turns bitter. They didn't look too hard. I dropped my mouse. It takes you a minute to know what to say. That's awful, you say at least, at a loss for anything else. So why are you protesting my office? We didn't shoot him. Thomas waves a hand indicating himself and all the protesters. Well, I'm sure you figured out that most of us here today are carriers of the lycanthropy virus or the family members and loved ones of carriers. We know that Congressman Nermal is going to be one of the key votes on the bill, and his support or opposition could be hugely important. And we're prepared to deliver our support in turn to a candidate that supports us. To turn into a candidate, yes, aware Congressman. He looks at you mournfully. This isn't just another bill to us, Riley. This is our lives, our families' lives, our right to keep our jobs, to not be turned out of our homes. Any candidate who helped us get these things, well, we'd be grateful is what I'm saying. I can see why, you say, keeping your tone carefully neutral. Thomas gives you a big smile, all charm now. You wonder why he doesn't run for office himself. Except, oh right, that werewolf thing. Ain't me a thing if it ain't got that werewolf thing. So what do you say, Riley? He asked. If I can get just a few minutes to talk to the congressman, I know he'll see why it's so important that he support this bill. You look longingly at the storefront door, gleaming smudgingly in the sunlight. Between the rain, the cab, and now the protesters, it's at least 8:15 already. Not very encouraging for your first day at work. But Thomas clearly isn't going to let you go until you give him an answer. What do you tell him? Let him down gently. I don't have time for this. Turn him down flat. I'm not going to help werewolves. It's bad enough that I'm going to have to deal with them hanging around here with their signs and chants. Make some vague promises. I can't agree to anything before I've even met my boss, but I don't want to look like I hate werewolves either. Give him my full support. Anything I can do to help werewolves win their battle for equal rights is worth it. I'll make the congressman see that somehow. And 2 votes for 3. Okay. And 3. Okay. That was easy. You put on your best, friendly and concerned face. Yes, you put on your breasts. It's like, well, I'll wiggle them in front of the congressman, and you know how they are, so that'll convince him. Friendly and concerned face, and watch Thomas's smile get larger and warmer in response. Look, I can't promise anything, Thomas, you start. Of course, he says, interrupting you in his eagerness. Here, let me give you my card. He hands you a plain white business card. You take it without looking at it and put it in your wallet. Anything you can do, we'd hugely appreciate it, he says. I'll see what I can do. Great, Thomas, reaching out to shake your hand again. Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure you must be very busy. He steps back, waving at the protesters to let you through their picket. By the way, I spit on that card. Welcome to our side. The glass storefront door doesn't close properly. It's striped with the ghosts of old tape and the torn corners of flyers. Oh, it's striped with ghosts of old tape. Oh, it's Watergate. A bell rings as you push it open. The first room you enter looks like every field office you've ever been in. Beige carpet, stained and scuffed. Scarred folding tables, covered with phones for volunteers to use, their fake wood tops buckling at the corners. A card table in the corner, with an ancient-looking laptop set up on it. Extension cords and other wiring crisscrosses the floors under blankets of duct tape. The front room is deserted. At the back, there's a brown door with a sign on it that says Office. It's slightly ajar, and even though Thomas told you that no one was here yet, a light is on inside. Hello? You call out, stepping carefully across the beige wire field towards the office. No one answers. As you get closer, you can see an office chair lying on its side on the floor just past the door. The whole situation starts to feel very wrong. You can feel your heart thumping in your chest as you take a final few steps and push the door open. Excuse me. You pause at the door, and the sinking sensation in your stomach turns into a hard knot. Not making the obvious joke. At first glance, the office is deserted, but there are signs of a struggle. There's the office chair, for one thing, lying on its side with its wheels in the air. Beyond it is a blocky metal desk, its wood veneer top crazed with rumpled papers and a computer keyboard with several keys missing. A scattering of pens lies on the carpet, along with the black plastic cup that once held them. Next to the desk is a black messenger bag lying on its side with the silver corner of a laptop sticking out of it. The sound of your own breathing is harsh in your ears. Over it you can hear something else, the droning beep of a telephone left off the hook. A phone cord stretches across the desk from a jack in the wall, diving over the side opposite you, down to the floor. The sound of the phone spurs you into action. It's clear that someone's broken into the office. You need to call the police, and make that infernal phone stop whining. You cross the office to the desk to do exactly that, but you're stopped dead by what's on the other side of the desk. A woman is lying on the floor in front of the desk. The first thing you notice is that she's face down and curled into a position that would be extremely uncomfortable, her arms and legs splayed in a way that indicates something worse than mere unconsciousness. The second thing you notice is the dark splotch of blood staining the carpet all around her head. Oh no, she's a head bleeder in her sleeper. Her short black hair trails in the edges of it. The back of her cream-colored blouse is torn open, and deep, angry red claw marks rip their way down her back, stopping at the waistline of her black skirt. Frisky. You drop to your knees next to the woman, grabbing her shoulder to turn her over. When you see her face, the thundering of the blood in your ears rises up to deafen you, and for a second you're looking at the world through tunnel vision. You take several deep breaths, trying desperately not to pass out. That's right, disturb this crime scene as much as you possibly can. Good plan. It's Maggie Ramirez, Congressman Nermal's campaign manager, the woman who hired you 2 weeks ago, and judging by the gaping red horror that used to be her throat, she is very, very dead. But there's still a possibility to save her because she's not very, very, very dead. The world spins for a second, and you clench your hands into fists until your fingernails drive painfully into your palms. Then everything steadies and you can breathe again, although you're still hyperventilating. You fumble in your pockets and come up with your phone, then nearly drop it. Your hands shake as you swipe in your password. You've got to call Ghostbusters. I don't think she might not be not yet dead. Or possibly mostly dead. Who are we going to call? The police. This is a crime scene and the killer could still be in the area. The sooner they start searching for Maggie's killer, the better. My boss. This is a complete disaster for the campaign and he needs to know right away. My press connections. This is going to be a huge story and it could be devastating for the campaign. We've got to get out in front of it immediately, make sure they're telling the right story. Okay, got one for call the cops. What's everybody else think? Rick says call the cops also. I'm guessing DIOT isn't back. Tex Moses, honestly, whatever you vote for, you're going to be outnumbered, so sorry about that. The police, it is. The 911 dispatcher is crisp and efficient and delicious with fries. But you can tell that she's nearly as shocked and horrified by your description of the scene as you are. She stays on the phone with you until the police arrive. The police arrive quickly, which is at least a little comforting. There are 3 of them. One of them stays outside and starts questioning the protesters, while the other 2 barge right through them and into the office. Are you Riley? Demands one of the cops. She seems to be in charge. Her partner is trailing a step behind her, poking at a tablet with a stylus. You nod. I just got here for work, and when I went into the office, I found her. You're aware you're babbling, but the cops don't seem to pay it much mind. Maybe babbling is normal for people who just found dead bodies. I don't know. Find a few more and, compare notes. Maybe you'll do better on the 3rd one. Okay, Riley, the cop says, we're going to have some questions for you, but for now, just take us to the body. The police swarm over the office, if 2 people can be called a swarm. If they're made of bees, sure. I don't know why that looked like taking penises to me, but taking pictures, taking dick pics, taking pictures, making notes, and talking to each other. You pace the outer room nervously. More cops show up a few minutes later. One of them gets that yellow tape out and strings it against the door. The other gets some painter's tape and starts redoing the walls in a lovely beige. The cop, who seemed to be in charge, comes out of the office at last. Excuse me, Riley, she says. We've got a few questions for you if you're ready to answer them. Maybe we are. I'm Sergeant Belle Evans, she continues. Belle. Okay. Can you help me find the way to the ball? I know you've been through a lot this morning, but anything you can tell us might help us find out who did this to your friend. She wasn't my friend, you say. She was my boss. True statement, little callous, but true. Either way, I'm sure it was a shock, Evans said. Now, I doubt this will come as a surprise to you, but it looks as if Mrs. Ramirez was killed by a werewolf. Or, is that Mrs. or Miss? Oh. So she was your boss, but you could call her. Not in this case. No. In the case of the boss, that meant Normal or whatever the fuck his name was. A werewolf. You knew that was what it had to be, of course, but hearing her say it out loud like that still leaves you shaken. If Maggie was killed by a werewolf, then one of them must have gone rogue. Normal lycanthropes take precautions against accidentally hurting someone. No one will be safe until this killer wolf is hunted down and dealt with. This could wind up dealing a major blow to the lycanthrope rights movement, and that would be terrible. Most werewolves aren't killers, they're just people like you and me. This could wind up dealing a major blow to the lycanthrope rights movement, and that would be a good thing. Werewolves are dangerous, and they can't be trusted to take reasonable steps to keep other people safe. Okay, we got number 1, number 2, number 1. Okay, number 1. One of them must have gone rogue. I don't know what to say, you tell Evans. I mean, yes, it looked like she was attacked by some kind of animal. You know, like a turtle or a goldfish. Yeah, Rick, you have the option to build the kennel from hell. Did Miss Ramirez have any friends or associates who were werewolves? Evans asked. Maybe someone involved with F3 or one of their other militant groups. You know, the one about the medium-strength tornado. Or the half-assed Brock Lesnar finisher. I don't know, you admit. Today is my first day. Evans whistles. Hell of a first day. You're interrupted by the bell over the storefront door ringing. You and Evans turn to see Congressman Laxman Normal ducking in under the yellow tape. Evans starts towards him immediately, one hand outstretched. Sir, this is a crime scene. You need to leave. Normal stops looking angrily. You step forward. Sergeant Evans, this is Congressman Normal, you say. Evans relaxes a bit at that, but she doesn't back off. Maggie, Normal says. Is she really dead? Evans sighs. I'm afraid so, sir, she says. It's good that you're here. I'm going to need to ask you some questions. She draws Normal off to one side and starts talking to him, preparing a packing crate to ship him off to Abu Dhabi, nodding frequently and taking notes. It seems as if they've both forgotten you're there. You try pacing again for a bit, then take this opportunity to study your boss while he doesn't know you're watching. Look at his clothes. Normal's collar is crooked. Take a closer look. Look at his face. Done. I guess by done we're like, okay, had enough of this shit. Screw you guys, going home. Okay, look at his collar. You drift closer to Evans and Normal. I last saw her yesterday, sometime during the afternoon, Normal is saying. My assistant can tell you the exact time. Neither of them seems to notice you're there. Normal rubs at the back of his neck. Your eye is drawn to his collar, which is littered with several dark hairs. Either he's got a serious hair loss problem, or he has a really big dog, paws on shoulders big. Okay, so we get the other two options anyway. Look at his clothes. You're no fashion maven, but Normal isn't exactly dressed for success today. He's wearing what looks like it was a smartly pressed gray suit, yesterday. It's awfully rumpled, like he spent the night in the office, or at least not at home. It's a sharp contrast against Sergeant Evans' crisp uniform. And that should be not an apostrophe S, but, nitpick. I'm an English major, it's not a nitpick. You know he works ridiculous hours. You've gotten 3 emails from him after midnight in the last 2 weeks, before you even technically worked for him. But it's early in the morning. Shouldn't he still be fresh? Does he have that not-so-fresh feeling? Look at his face. Normal's grinning and glad-handing Sergeant Evans as if he were in front of a fleet of news cameras instead of on the scene of a murder investigation. Typical politician, but there are heavy bags under his eyes like he didn't sleep last night. And every time those perfect white teeth flash in a practice grin, you become more and more sure they look just a little pointy. There's a book from Scott Adams of Dilbert cartoons, and the title of it is Your New Job Title is Accomplice. After Sergeant Evans is done talking to Normal, she corrals you again. She wants to know absolutely everything. How you got here, what time you arrived, whether you came right in, why is the sky blue, what is the nature of God, did OJ do it? She drills into you for details about your conversation with Thomas and your interactions with the protesters. She even asked how much your cab fare was. Wow. I hope you're telling her like whatever you actually paid the cabbie plus $20. The same questions over and over. Who, when, where, when, why? How much? I don't know. Third base. You start to worry that she's trying to catch you in a lie. But you know you didn't do it, so there's nothing she can do to you, right? Sure, I won't go to jail, but if I make one wrong move, I could wind up getting thrown on a media bonfire. I have to think of my position with the campaign, too. If major donors hear about this, it can make them nervous about supporting Normal. Nervous Normal. Image is everything. Obey your thirst. Sprite. If the average voter gets the idea that something's off with the campaign, it could hurt us in the polls. Even if I had done it, this rookie cop would never be able to catch me in a lie. Okay. Okay, so we're trying to keep out of the media bonfire. Texamosis votes for a very alert number 1. Got it. Evans questions you for what feels like hours, but at last she stops. Thank you very much for your time, Riley, she says. She hands you a business card. I may call you if I have more questions for you, but I hope you'll call me if you remember anything else that may help us find Maggie's killer. Of course, you say. You feel limp like a wrung-out washcloth. You check your phone. It's barely 10 a.m., and you're as exhausted as if you'd worked a double shift. Evans shakes your hand, collects her partner, who's been questioning Thomas and the protesters, and leaves. They're the last of the cops. The rest of the contingent, along with a coroner's assistant with a body bag and a stretcher, leaves while you were talking to Evans. One of them is apparently named Ducky. Normal clears his throat behind you, making you jump and spin around. I had my assistant call the staff and tell them not to come in today, he says. You should go home as soon as you can, too. You feel a stab of guilt that the congressman handled that himself. I doubt anyone would be able to get any work done, and we need to get a cleaning crew in here before. He trails off, looking distressed. It's the first unpracticed expression you've seen on his face. I'll handle the cleaning crew, you say quickly. Relief spills over Normal's face. I'm glad I can count on you, Riley. Yeah, this is like Quentin Tarantino's Curdled. I know we don't know each other very well, Normal says, but I also know that you were Maggie's top choice for deputy, and that she had a lot of confidence in you. This is a terrible start to your job with my campaign, and I'm sorry for that. Are you still on board? And on an unrelated note, do you own a wood chipper? You don't hesitate. Of course, Congressman. I'm not honestly sure, Misfit Kitten. It's been a while, but I'm pretty sure this happens no matter what. I am not entirely certain. If you want to find out for yourself, I don't believe this game is all that expensive. And there's lots of stuff to find in it. So Normal smiles, and it's all politician again now. I'm glad to hear that, he says, because I'm about to ask you to take on a bigger challenge than the one you signed up for. He gestures at the office and then winces as you both remember what was lying in there until just recently. As terrible as all this is, and as much as we'll all miss Maggie, the campaign can't go on without a manager. Are you ready to take that on? You hold his gaze earnestly as you say, I don't know if you're ever ready for something like this, sir, but I'm willing to give it my best. Normal smiles at that, shakes your hand, and admonishes you again to go home and get some rest. His phone rings, and he answers it, waving a sketchy goodbye as he walks towards the door. As the door closes behind him, the realization hits you. Not Maggie's death, that still feels somehow unreal, but the fact that you're going to be running the campaign. Are you ready? I didn't want it to happen this way, but I've been ready for a turn in the driver's seat for years. Normal's an incumbent, and the voters love him. How badly can I screw it up? This is where all my years of networking with movers and shakers will finally pay off. At least if we somehow end up losing, everyone will blame it on the werewolves, not me. Now that's a politician. Okay. Networking. Yeah, we got one for networking. Make your voice heard. Okay, we got one for been ready. And we got one for number 2. Okay. So I'm going to do the tiebreaker. Let's see. Shane didn't want to happen. Okay, so since I'm doing the tiebreaker, I'm going to disappoint everybody and go for number 4. There, everyone can feel equal levels of disappointment. And blame it on me if it all goes wrong. You blame it on the werewolves, not me, and also me. Ready or not, you think, here it comes. Looking around the deserted headquarters one last time, you turn off the lights and head for the door. As you step out the door and turn to lock it behind you, you realize there's no way you're ready to head home. You're still too wound up from everything that's happened. You need someone to talk to until the tightness coiled up in your chest loosens up enough that you can go home and be alone without Maggie's ripped-out throat floating behind your eyes, and sleep without drinking yourself into a coma. What's the best way to talk out your anxiety? I should try to catch up with Normal and get a handle on this job. I just need to talk to a friend. If I talk to Thomas a little more, maybe I could get my feelings about werewolves and Maggie sorted out, or find out more about what happened. He isn't my friend, he's my boss. Okay. We just need to talk to a friend. Winter, spring, summer, or fall. All you gotta do is call. You don't have a lot of friends in this town, but you can think of one who will be there for you. Abby Kearns. She was a journalism student at the time. A lot of female characters in this. It's very interesting. She was a journalism student at the same time as you were doing your poli-sci degree. Now she's a reporter for the Star, the biggest paper in town. Available at every grocery store check lane. If you're looking for a sympathetic ear, you couldn't ask for anyone better. I read all about it in the weekly Midnight Star. You text Abby. Need to talk, Teds? I misread that. Need to talk, Teds? I need to have a TED talk with you, Abby. It's a local bar and grill just a couple blocks away. No sooner have you sent the message than the telltale ellipses of Abby's response appear. I can get away in half an hour, she says. You walk slowly to give Abby more time, but you still get there first. By the time she arrives, you're halfway through your beer. Hey, sorry, she says. It took longer than I thought to get away. Don't worry about it, you say, nodding at your glass. I had company. Her face takes on a somber cast. She has a somber cask of beer with her. I heard about your campaign manager, she says. I can see why you're drinking, even if it is a bit early. How are you holding up? Well, it's dead o'clock somewhere. You make a face. It's not what I wanted for my first day. I guess I at least got a promotion out of it. Abby's face lights up. You're running the campaign? When you nod, she makes an excited noise. This is everything we talked about in college, she says. Me covering all the big stories of the day. I've been assigned to the murder case, by the way. And now you running the campaign for the movers and shakers. Don't sound so goddamn excited, Abby. Jeez. So you're going to make sure Normal gets nothing but positive press at the Star, right? Will you coach me on dealing with the press? We've got an interview with your editor coming up. We can still hang out, right? It's not going to get you in trouble at work? What do we say to dear Abby? Oh, welcome back, DIOT. Okay, so we've got a tie. 3-2. Alright, well, I will be the tiebreaker then. You don't like Normal. Well, understandable. I think she's probably going to need coaching with the press, so I think we're going to go ahead and go with that. Abby grins. So you know you'd be in over your head without me, huh? Hit me up when you've got some time and I'll give you some pointers. You give her a sly look. Gonna tell me the way to your editor's heart? She snorts. To hear her tell it, a pyramid structure and no split infinitives. Or donuts if you don't want to show up for the interview with clips. You mind making notes on the table. Donuts, got it. Abby laughs. By the way, the easiest way to someone's heart is through the rib cage. Vampire in Brooklyn taught me that. Well, yeah, this is true. Good call, Taximosis, but it's a weird world, what can you say? After that, the talk turns to more general topics. Who's dating whom? Whether you're going to that party, where the best place in town is for brunch. By the time you finish your drink and say goodbye, you're feeling much better about the world. Alcohol will do that. Oh, okay, yeah, you slow them down that way, I see. You walk towards 21st and Hornsby. That's just the way it is. Listening to the mandolin rain. Where you're more likely to be able to catch a cab. The sun is still high in the sky, which startles you. You're exhausted enough to have spent a whole day at work. You walk past a construction site, the plywood walls plastered with posters. A few of them are for Faith Goodpenny. You make a note to send some interns out tomorrow to cover them up with Laxman Normal signs. Yep, politics. You round a corner and see someone approaching from the other direction. Your heart sinks when you recognize Jude Marvin. Hey, Jude! A year ahead of you in school, it seems like everywhere you went and whatever you did, Jude was there first and doing it better. When you agreed to take this job, as happy as you were to be working for Laxman Nermal, there was one fly in the ointment, the fact that Goodpenny's campaign is being managed by none other than Jude. Riley, Jude says as you approach, I heard what happened to Maggie. It must have been devastating to everyone on the campaign. When you don't stop, Jude tries again. It was a shock to everyone. I'm very sorry. Back in school, you'd never have believed that Jude would do anything unless there was some advantage to be had from it. But college was a long time ago. How do you feel about Jude's sincerity now? Not a chance. Jude's just trying to get under my skin to rattle me. Jude's always been honest but opportunistic. This is a play for some kind of advantage. Maggie's death really was a shock to everyone. Jude seems genuinely upset. We've never gotten along, but Jude seems truly concerned about me. Maybe it's time to bury the hatchet. In his skull. Put the hatchet right in his skull. Play for an advantage. Yeah, that makes sense to me, too. I don't have time for this, you say, and watch as Jude's face falls. Look, I'm sorry to be rude, but I've had a terrible day, and I'm really not up for verbal sparring right now. Of course not, Jude says, Riley, I'm not screwing with you. I just want to say I'm sorry. You're sure there's an angle in there somewhere, but you're too tired and shell-shocked to see it. I just need to get home and rest, if you don't mind. Jude shrugs and waves at you as you continue down the street. Well, Beals are never getting back together at this rate. By the time you reach 21st and Hornsby, you're limp with exhaustion. The early afternoon sun paints the city in shades of tired gold. It flashes off the windshield of each passing car with a white jolt that makes you shield your eyes against the onslaught. After all the rain, the scent of sodden garbage is thick in the air. You hang your head as you trudge along the sidewalk toward the busy intersection, wishing you were home already. You pass an overflowing trash can teeming with flies and pause as you reach the corner. You search into it to find a maggot-ridden box of Chinese food. It's delicious. Hell of a first day, you think, but at least it's over. Taking a deep breath, you step off the sidewalk and into the street, raising your arm to hail a cab. Next chapter.